Hello, welcome to Called to Homeschool, episode number 275, Confidence and Resilience for Teens with Joey Mascio, who I am so excited to have on the podcast today. Joey, how in the world are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm loving summer right now and getting geared up for the back to school season.
Yeah. Okay, Joey, I am excited to have the listeners to meet you. So why don't you go ahead and start with who you are, your family, and kind of what you do?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Joey Mascio. I'm a confidence and resilience coach for teens. I specifically work with uh, middle school, high school aged individuals on everything from achieving goals, managing emotions, becoming bully proof, things like that. I've been doing this for 5 years. Before that, I was a middle school teacher and counselor for about 6 years, and where I volunteered to be the teacher in the discipline office. And that's where I started kind of working with teens and coaching them. And then before that, I was a Disneyland comedian and performer for about 9 years.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's fun. What was
Ah.
like, did you juggle? What did you perform?
Well, I played famous Disney characters. And so I'm actually the
Oh,
only actor in Disney history to have played both Darth Maul and the Mad Hatter.
congratulations. I
Thank
didn't know
you.
I had such a celebrity.
Yes, my claim to fame.
That's amazing. So I ran into Joe. We got to meet in person at a homeschool conference, and I just spaced the name. It was in May. Yes.
I
Do you
think
remember?
so.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, it was in Provo, Utah, and Joey was a vendor there, and he's amazing. And I got to talk to him. So he said that he was a school teacher, but your kids don't go to public school, do they?
No, no, they do not. They do not. And my wife was the first one to bring up that idea before our first son. We have four kids now,
Okay.
but before our first one was even school aged, she's like, "Hey, Joey, I think I want to homeschool." And I'm like, "Hold on a second, crazy lady here, right? Like, I'm a public school teacher. How is that going to look?" And I'd been a public school teacher for like a year,
Mm-hmm.
or two, and I'm like, I don't, how is that going to look? Like this is the way everybody does things. I want our kids to be very normal, and a lot of the homeschool kids I've kind of ran into aren't normal. Like that was my perception of it all. But then a couple years into teaching, I looked at my wife and I was like, no, yes, you're right. Yes, we need to homeschool our kids because and people get mad at me for saying this, but I looked at public school and I was like, this is not the best way to educate children. It's just not. And I taught at a public school in Southern California. It was kind of an inner city school, so they had a lot of funding because when you're a Title One school with low socioeconomic individuals, you get a lot of funding. So there was a ton of money coming in, but the place at times, and by the way, I loved my job. Like I absolutely loved it. The only reason why I left is because my coaching business took off and we wanted to focus all on this. But I loved it up until the final day. But I still was like, this is not the best way to do this because it was at times a madhouse and it was nuts. And I mentioned this to you before. We had like 50-minute periods, but then they shortened it to 43-minute periods during my tenure there. And of that 43 minutes, I maybe got in 15 minutes of instruction, of solid, hardcore, what people would consider instruction. Other minutes were given to culture, community building, classroom management. It was given to independent work, and things of that nature. But me teaching them content was like 15 minutes. And I was an English teacher and I also taught theater classes, but I was like the language arts English teacher, which people say math and reading and writing. Those are the most important things, and of the most like the important thing to teach, I had 15 minutes to really teach a concept.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just not the most effective way to do it. Yes, the kids are at school for 6 hours, sometimes 7 hours, but they are not receiving 6 to 7 hours of instruction.
Yes, I love that. I think I could have Joey on another time where we could just dive into that
Oh
because
my goodness, yes.
so many homeschool parents are like, wait, schools are going for 6 hours. And I did a podcast episode where I went and like researched like education.gov or whatever their website is, right? And it's just like, you only need this much time to do this and this much time to do this. And so you could actually condense a school day down to an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours for bigger kids. So you can get so much done because when I'm teaching one child about contractions versus 35, 40 plus kids, I
Uh,
can make that a really short and sweet lessons. If they understand it, we can just go through it. If they're stuck, it's like, oh, hey, let's take a little bit of time. Let's spend a whole week on contractions. Let's have a lot of fun with it, right? So, yeah,
yeah,
I
and
thank you
it's
for
not
telling
like,
people.
yeah, of course, and it's not like schools are always wasting time, right? You know,
Mhm.
a lot of stuff is necessary when you have thousands of students in like one community. Like you have to do things like the community culture building. Like students will get pulled out of class. There's assemblies. There's other things. There's also mandates come down from the district and the government of things that must be done and covered and whatnot. You have to do fire drills, right? Again,
Yeah.
these things aren't bad, but they're a kind of a necessary time suck when you are in a machine like that. You have to take care of the whole machine and the just what it is. You know, you have to take time doing that. And so my wife sometimes will spin because, you know, we homeschool our four kids, and she'll sometimes spin, oh man, I'm not getting in enough time. And she'll look at public school hours and whatnot. And this was more so a couple of years ago. She's
Right.
gotten over this since. But I'm like, honey, no, it's not like you need to get in six, even five, even four, even 3 hours of instruction a day to keep up with them. Like that's not a necessity.
Yeah. Okay. I hope everybody will listen to like what you just said over and over and over on repeat. Just because, especially where I've had four graduates, right? And I've looked
Mm.
that our homeschool day, when I had all seven kids home, it was longer just because I wanted one-on-one time with each kid. So that does take time,
Yeah.
right? But as far as their instruction time, because maybe I'm working with one kid and the other brothers are outside playing football, and maybe sisters are out doing something else, right? And so it here I have proof, like in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding, right? Like that you don't need a million hours and your kids can be amazing, successful adults. And I love asking their friends who are also adults of like, what did your homeschool look like in high school? I just saw one of the kids yesterday, and I was,
Mm.
because he's going to Brigham Young University, which is an awesome university in Utah. And so I was like, oh, wait, what did your parents do then? And I was asking him, and he goes, oh, they just knew BYU likes a high ACT score. So he did speech and debate. And I don't know if he did mock trial, but his dad's in politics. So he was really in with helping his dad in his political forms, and then got a really good ACT score. And he was like, "Yeah, that was pretty much my high school." I was like, "And here you are, a young 20-year-old young man. He's amazing, going to this nice university." And so, like, I love asking all my kids' friends just because their parents all do different things, and you can all create something amazing. So you get to completely individualize it instead of this big, you're a cog in the machine.
Mhm.
I think I'm getting on my soapbox, so I'm going to come back.
Yeah, I think we both were up there, so we'll both step down.
Okay, we'll both step
Yeah.
back. So I have a soft spot for teens. I
Mhm.
love them. Absolutely love them. I do not think the teen years have to be horrendous. I
Mhm.
don't think they have to be awful. At one time, I had five teens. Right now, I have four. One doesn't live at home anymore, so I guess three
Mhm.
teens that live here. And it's not the worst thing like in the whole entire world. And Joey, I think, shares my love of this age group, correct?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely love it. I'm excited. Like my oldest is 9, and parents that I coach or talk to, oh, just you wait. When they become a teen, oh, it's all different and it's horrible. And like they kind of want to cast a dark shadow on it. I'm like, well, what makes it so horrible? Oh man, like they start getting opinions and they start wanting to do things that you don't want them to do, and they start like talking back. And I'm like, you just described all of my kids ever since they hit 3, right?
Yeah.
Like having their opinions and wanting to, like do their own thing and not listen and wanting to like my son is reading a book. My 9-year-old, he's reading a book, and me and my wife were literally, Logan, Logan, Logan. We asked you to do like, and you could replace the book with a phone, and it would be the exact same interaction. He's just still ignoring us because he's doing the thing that he's Logan, look at what, and he's annoyed that we're kind of getting on his space. And so it's like they would give me the whole doom and gloom, but I'm super excited for my kids to be teenagers. Like I want to enjoy them at all ages, but
Right.
I'm not afraid of it because the teen years, oh, there's so much potential and so much great education that we can give them during that time.
Yes. So when I was talking to Joey too, because what I love to do is like I work with the parents, right? And a lot of things, like you just said, back talk. And a lot of parents will be like, oh, no, you won't. Not in my house. You will not disrespect me, right? Like my little sassiness comes out. And so interesting where it can teach you to ignore or like get curious. What, like, can you hear the words that they're saying? Maybe they don't feel like they have a voice, right? So I really focus on that parent part. And I have coached some teens, but Joey's mostly teens. And what did you say? Like teens need coaches too. Is that what you told me?
Yes, yeah. Teens need coaches too, because when I became a life coach, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to work with teens. It was an obvious choice for me. And a lot of other coaches I'd certified with and we're talking to, they're like, oh, and online and in person, they'd say, well, no, it's really the parents that need it,
Hmm.
and they just discount the teens. I'm like, no, no, teens need this education as well as the parents. Like, yes, parents definitely get the coaching and the metacognition skills, right? The your own resilience, but don't just say no. It's just for the parents to get, and the teens just are whoever they are. And I don't know why they would say that. Maybe they're insinuating that teens are just going to be who they are,
Yeah.
and there's no change in them. They don't have, I know their prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed until they're 25 or 26, and they just got their prefrontal cortex around the age of 10 and 11, depending on gender. But like, they could still learn how to use it as it's being built. And I
Hmm.
was seeing it. I'm like, no, like kids get it. Some kids, maybe not mature enough, at 13, 14 years old, but they have to have the maturity and the desire. And if they have both of those things, then they're fully capable of learning all these awesome self coaching, mental and emotional regulation skills that will help them be even more successful than learning math or English.
Yes. So it's interesting because my kids are growing up in a home where my husband and I are very intentional parents, right? We we work really hard to work with them, to be understanding when they have different trials pop up or even quote unquote stupid decisions that they've made.
Mm-hmm.
We have worked really hard to be a safe space. Like, okay, like let's dive in. Why did you think that was a good idea? Versus like, oh my gosh, you're in so much trouble, right? So even though my husband and I were not perfect, darn near close. Just
Practically
kidding.
perfect in every way.
Yeah, my cute son, when I interviewed him, he goes, I know you always say you're not perfect, but you guys are pretty close. And I was like, okay, you are amazing. I guess I'll pay you after. No, he's so sweet. But like, so my husband and I try really hard to be intentional parents. Our kids needed a coach,
Mm,
right? They had a friend commit suicide once,
mm,
and that was heavy. And that was something that they didn't want to like have mom and dad to deal with it, right? Like they
mm,
wanted an outside source. Or I've had a teen going through a struggle that they are like, I don't want to open it up to you about it. Not that I didn't know about the
right.
struggle, but it's like, but I would like someone else because I want to just be your kid.
Mm,
I don't want this coach therapy type relationship with you. I want the mom, the dad relationship with you. And I want to be your kid and your friend. But I want to open up this heavy thing with somebody else. This thing that, like, you can just be my support staff, my crew, but I just want someone else to talk to. And it's been neat to watch my kids who, like, maybe they don't need a regular coach, but just knowing I have one in my back pocket.
yeah.
So when something heavy pops up, and heavy can be a definition for so many things, right?
Right.
Or just even decisions that they've made that they feel guilty about. I've just, and I even think too, as parents, sometimes it's really hard to not get emotionally involved because it's your kid,
Well, yeah,
right?
no, that's a huge part of it as well, right? I definitely the first thing you said, right? Where it's like, like, mom, I talk to you about this all the time, but I want to talk to somebody else about this and get what they, a different perspective on it. Um, Great, but also, man, there are babies. There are kids. And if you're gonna be that mentor and that coach and put on that hat, you have to have an ability to let go of their results,
Yes.
which is hard to do when that's all you've cared about for the last 15 years of their life is their results. And you have to have that ability to let go of it because they can't learn to own their results until you let go of their results. And so, like, I have that ability to come in as a coach and completely let go of their results, meaning that, hey, like, whatever you want to try to get, awesome. Like becoming a famous YouTube star, for
Yeah.
example, or a basketball player, whatever tactics you want to try to use that me as an adult of 40 years of experience, I know that tactic's probably not going to work, right? But you desperately want to try it when it comes to confronting these bullies, for example. This is a very common one. And I'm like, yeah, hey, you know what? If that's what you feel like that's best, I'll ask them all the questions like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm like, all right, then go do it. And let's talk about next week how that worked. And I let them go do it. And they come back and they're like, yeah, that didn't work. In fact, it
Yeah.
made things
Like,
worse.
what?
Yeah, what? Interesting. But like I can do it not like, well, I told you so because I was telling them not to. I have that ability to just let go of it and go, hey, let's just try this out together. Maybe that will work for you. Maybe. I don't know. Go try it. Come back and we'll talk. And then when it
Mhm.
doesn't work, I have the ability to then say, why do you think that didn't work?
Yes.
And that right there is the most important because that's the second thing I feel teens need after owning their own results. They need the ability to write their own stories and come up with their own solutions. And they can't do that if me as parent is coming in and telling them what to write and telling them what to think and telling them what to do, which we desperately all want to do as parents, because we love them so much, right? Like have you ever experienced that as a coach with your kids, like just wanting to tell them, even though you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been coaching a long time and I have a lot of kids. Right? So like I get better with each one. So definitely my older ones, I was probably more worried about things versus my kids now that are teens
Mm,
that I could feel like now I could even say so for example, one of my kids I was concerned about some of their friends. And I
mm,
just said, "Here's the deal. Let me just paint a picture of the road that these kids are on. Is that the road you want to be on?" And the kid was like, "I don't know. I don't think you're right." And I was like, "I think I am. So try me." And I said, "This kid, I have a rule that everybody's welcome in my home. My home is open to everybody. We're a lighthouse. We're a safe place. The doors are always welcome to my home." So I said, "Invite these friends. You don't have to cut these friends off, but they can only come to our house. So they can't take you away, but they can come here." And it was so interesting to watch this kid even just trust me with this because he couldn't see that far ahead. And now here we are several years later, and he goes, he always teases me. They call it my spidey sense. That's what they call it. Like your spidey sense was right. Of like these kids have gone down a completely different path than what he wanted and where he is now. And so I do think when you have a connection with your kid and can stay out emotionally, like fantastic. But I don't know what I would do if my kids tried drugs, if I'm being honest. I don't know if I could stay neutral with something to of that magnitude because in my
yeah,
brain, that's a big issue.
right.
Or if they were doing other things that like being promiscuous or things like that, that I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah,
I don't know if I could be neutral with that. And so that's where it's beautiful when a coach can come in and it's like, all right, let's talk about what happens if you start having sex.
yeah, yep,
And like you get to decide and make those choices. So I think that's the beauty of a coach when like mom and dad can do your best, but having somebody who's neutral and just to show them options is such a beautiful space.
yeah. Agreed, agreed.
So tell us about, is it an app? Is it a web program that you've created for teens?
Well, yeah. So Sidekick to Hero is a virtual confidence and resilience program for teens. So it's a web-based app. I always just call it an app, though it's not for native phones yet. It was so funny when I was working with the developers on this. I hired a professional developing, like a gaming developer company, to build this from the ground up because I wanted to feel like a video game. Excuse me. And they're like, all right, we're going to start with an iPhone app. And I was like, no. And they're like, no, no, like that's where everybody is. That's where, the teens are. And I'm like, no, I want it to be accessible on all desktop Chromebooks, like just browser. And they're like, you're nuts. And I'm like, no, you guys are nuts. I don't think teens should have a smartphone. So I can't be saying that and then also say, hey guys, sign up for my program available on iPhones only, you know?
Yeah.
So it's available on, you know, a web browser. Excuse me. I last night was Pioneer Day here in Utah, and I
Yeah.
set off a bunch of fireworks, and I inhaled some smoke from my
Oh,
daughter's sparkler. She put it right up to my face, and I started coughing. It was
yeah.
not fun. But yeah, so they can access it online. It looks and feels like a video game, but it's not a video game. It's a
Mm-hmm.
curriculum that teaches powerful concepts for mental resilience and confidence and emotional regulation, and it does it in a gamified way. So they get training from short videos, 5 to 10 minutes long. Remember, you only need 15 minutes of instruction a day, right? To
Yeah.
like teach them a concept. And they watch these short videos. I make them all. They're comedic. They're downright hilarious, is what some teens have called them. And I use comedy to teach them these skills: how to be aware of what they're thinking, change their thoughts, stop procrastinating, social skills. And then they get a challenge to go do in real life. And that's the
Mm.
game part. They're the main character of the game. And they're going to go do these challenges in real life, go talk to three new people, go be mad, but not yell at your younger brother or sister, you know. And then they come back into the app and they report how it went in a little like self-reflective journal entry, and they get points and coins for doing all of it.
Mm.
And it's a lot of fun. There's the course aspect, of it, but there's also a weekly live stream that we do to build community, where it also functions as a membership, where they sign in every Thursday nights, our hero training rooms, and they can talk in a moderated chat with me and another certified life coach for teens. And we talk about different themes of the month. This month or this summer, we're going through atomic habits. So
Mm.
I'm summarizing one chapter every week, and then we talk about it, and I give them a challenge to complete in the real world as they're moving towards a big goal they have for the summer. So it's a ton of fun, and the homeschool community is loving it, and it's really
I
perfect
was gonna
for
say, I think you told me that, right? Because
yeah.
the homeschool moms are like, yes, this is amazing for my kid.
Well, it was hilarious. We launched it officially last summer. People started signing up, and then I realized by like Christmas, I'm like, half the people that are using this are homeschool, like kids. And I looked over at my wife. I'm like, wait, we homeschool. Why am I
Mm.
not like marketing this to the homeschool community? And so I've been doing that, and it's perfect because parents know how to utilize this. Like a homeschool parent goes, oh yeah, no, I know exactly how to utilize this in my homeschool routine, like however they do it. I mean, there's public school kids in there as well, and some public school kids love it just as much, and they eat it up and they love it. But it's like they have to come home from school, and maybe they have football or something else, and then they have their evening activities, and then they got to squeeze in time for it. It can still work for them, but the homeschool community also doesn't have, like, they know how to use it, but they don't have a curriculum on this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not there. Like you can read books, and there's some great entrepreneurial curriculum I've heard of, which is great. Like we talk about being an entrepreneur as well, but as far as the mental resilience and the ability to self coach and to rewrite your stories, to identify what I call your sidekick thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and remove that and write a hero thought, and be able to keep going even after failures, even despite people calling you names and making fun of you, like despite whatever your circumstances are, the ability, or a curriculum that will give kids an ability to be able to take control of their results in a way that you really need to if you want to succeed in life. It's just not out there, at least one that's not this fun.
Right. What have you heard back, like as feedback, and like what results have you seen for some of these teens?
I Game changer. That was one. A mom emailed me for her, I think, 13-year-old daughter. She's like, "This is a game changer for her. Oh my goodness! Like she's opening up more and she's talking about things." Another one sent a picture of, I talk about developing some protocols, right? When, because there's four arenas that I teach in that they can play through: headspace, emotions, relationships, and objectives. Spells
Mm.
out hero. right? Called Sidekick to
Cute.
Hero. I thought it was very cute, you know. But so he was going through the objectives category. He was talking about setting goals or whatnot, you know, having protocols for your goals. She sent me a picture, and with his permission, of he took notes and wrote down his like three goals, short term, intermediate, and long term goals, and then put them by his pillow at night so he can review them frequently. And she's like, "Oh my goodness, like he has never done anything like this before." And I've had one parent whose team has been with me for the longest. She emailed me last month and said, "I don't know if I ever told you this, but my son, I mean, before we found Sidekick to Hero, he was seeing a therapist. You know, he was real like he was going through some kind of bouts of depression and particularly self-harm. I don't advertise as that's what I help with for legal reasons. But she's like, man, he wasn't getting anywhere. And then he found you and your program. And it's been a complete 180. He feels
Mm.
more confident. He feels more emotionally stable. He knows how to like process his emotions and go through, and he's not struggling with any of that stuff anymore. And to me, that just like warms my heart because all of this stuff, it's a precursor. It's prevention. You know, kids will get to the place where they're like, man, like a therapist would really be able to help them. And if one can, awesome, sure. But they'll get to that place. And then the therapist might have to undo a lot of the mind building and stuff and thought patterns that they got into. But if you can prevent that all from the beginning, if you can just let them know, hey, just so you know, all thoughts are optional, like all of them. And you have the ability to choose how you want to view yourself and your circumstances. Let's go. You know, then you can do a great job at preventing a lot of issues that are facing teens today.
This is awesome. It reminds me of just even like I see things. So I'm in my 40s as well, right? Of like I want to be really healthy in my 60s, so that means in my 40s making sure I'm doing preventative stuff to be as healthy as I can in my 60s. So this is what it reminds me of is like before you go into adulthood, let's prepare you. So if you do create a company, get a job, get married, have babies, whatever those things are that you're like, yeah, some days are hard because they have that resilience, right?
Yeah.
I didn't
Yep.
get into the school I wanted to. Okay.
Yep.
How do I
Yeah.
deal with that? How do I manage that? Right? Because you see so many kids now who like become into adulthood and they can't function with failure. They can't function with a rejection, or it's like it's somebody else's fault. It's
Yep.
like that victim. Everybody's against me then. Like I need the world to change so I can get this. So it's so amazing. What an amazing tool to give them so that when they do launch into adulthood, that they're like, I've got this. And if
Yep.
one door closed, okay, do I want to try to get that door back open or do I want to do a different door? And having that
Yeah.
confidence.
Yeah. And feeling that depression or frustration or whatever the unpleasant feeling is, to have the ability to go, oh, but this doesn't mean anything's wrong with me. Right? Like, because that's what often will start the downward spiral. Oh, I'm feeling bad. Well, you're not supposed to feel bad. And if you feel
Right.
bad, then that means something must be wrong with me. Like I feel bad like once a day. Oh my goodness, this much. And when I talk to my teen clients, I'm like, well, how often do you think you're supposed to feel bad, right, or unpleasant? Like, well, not very often. I'm like, that. Where'd you get that from? Right? Like that's not true. Hey,
Right.
guess what? You're completely normal. And they go, oh, that's good to hear. I'm like, yeah. So you can take that weight off your shoulders that you're not broken or something, because then they start self-identifying as someone who is broken or who has
Right.
problems and whatnot. And so they can go, oh, no, it's just normal. Yeah. Okay. That it makes sense. And yeah, it prepares them especially for leaving the house and
Mm-hmm.
everything that real life is going to throw at them. You know, they're experiencing real life now, but you know, they're protected a bit from mom and dad, you know, or not from by mom and dad. You know, parents do that. We create an environment for them to try some things, but still be safe. Like they're not going to end up on the streets, or they're not going to like whatever, because we're giving them love and food and shelter and all that.
Right.
But when they get out there on their own, a lot of kids are like, "Ah, oh, this feels uncomfortable. Well, I don't want to do this."
Right.
But you need that discomfort. Like you have to experience it.
What do you say? Because sometimes I hear this, and this is why some people are like, we need to coach the parents. Because I often see parents saying, "Hey, will you coach my kid because I need you to fix them?" And that's what I'm like, "Oh, that's when mom and dad need coaching." Right? Like, what do you say? Because I know the kid could still benefit from it, but
Right.
I don't like this space when a parent is like, "Joey, I can't stand my kid. Fix them so that I don't find them so annoying anymore. Get rid of this behavior." Like, what do you like? How do you
Yeah.
take that?
Well, two things can be true at once, right? Is that the teen could definitely use some skills on interaction
Mm-hmm.
and communication with mom and dad, and not uh, clinging to their phone and giving it up, for example, when mom asks for it or takes it away. Like the teen could totally use right that help to be able to do that and go, you know what, mom's in charge. Like I get this. She's there for my best interest. God, like they can totally use that. But in that scenario that you just said, mom could also use help in going, you know what? My teen's not broken. This actually makes sense that they're acting this way. And the reason why mom is seeking out help for their teen, that's been the biggest difference in what I've seen in the parents I talk to as I'm working with their teens. If they're approaching it like they need to be fixed, oh my goodness, their teen's not even up for it, man, because mom's been talking to
Yeah.
them like you need to be fixed. I don't need to be fixed. So I do a lot of marketing towards this effect where I don't get those parents anymore who are in
Okay.
that mindset. Because a parent coming up and saying, hey, you know what? Like my teen is going through what teens go through. And I think they could benefit from learning some important skills in this area. And I talk to them about it and they agree. I
Mm.
go, awesome. I'm going to coach that kid on the exact same thing I would coach the other kid on whose mom is like, they need to be fixed. Oh my goodness. Like that's mom wanting their teen to get coached so mom can feel better.
Yes. So I don't have to regulate my emotions. I
Right.
will change you so then I feel happy.
Yes. Yeah. And that's not the best way to approach it. And usually a teen will sense that and not even want to be on board.
Well, yes, that's what I've seen because people will say, "Will you?" Because like in my membership, it's like mom, dad, and teens are welcome to use the private sessions weekly, right?
Mm,
So mostly moms, dads will come on, and those ones are always voluntary. So those have been amazing. And
nice.
teens, I have a huge asterisk on my website that's like only if they want to be coached, and I can tell you immediately if it was, I have to be here. And I'm like, well, wonderful. Why don't you just tell me what you like? Because this is going to be pointless for both of us.
Yep.
Right. Like, you don't want to be here. I'm happy to be here, but like, I'm just going to be your friend then because you don't want to open up or whatnot. And so I love that you're marketing like, hey, let's just learn confidence. Let's learn this amazing skill
Mm.
versus let me parent your kid.
Yeah. Well, and I found that out way at the beginning. I did
Okay.
uh um what is it, a focus group with a bunch of teens from my church. And I was like, all right, guys. And I gave them a bunch of wordings, and they all hated the wordings where it looked like they were going to be fixed,
Mm,
and they were like, no, I don't like any of that. And but all the ones that were like, hey, learn to be a leader, learn how to increase your
I love
confidence and
that.
be resilient so you can be successful and high achieving. They're like, yeah, no, I'd sign up for that. Like that make and I tell people I was a part of it because even if they recognized, oh, I do need to be fixed, like they're not happy about it. They don't want to tell people about
Right.
it.
It's
And so
embarrassing.
it is. So I tell parents approach it that way with your teens.
Beautiful. Okay, that is awesome. Thank you for putting my own heart at ease because I hate that mindset.
Yeah.
Just like as a teen who was being abused, right? And was always told, you're the problem, you're the problem,
Mm,
you're the problem while I was being abused by this person, right? So,
right.
like, I come from like this space of like, did you ever take a chance to think maybe like there might be some interaction here that isn't
Um,
helping things, right?
yes. Yeah.
So, I think it's beautiful to give teens support as they're going through things that they have. I remember one of my kids just had a friend move away for the summer. Wasn't
Mm,
even full time, but their family, they homeschooled, right? So they're like, we're going to go live in another country for the summer. And my kid did not know what to do with those big emotions.
mm,
He didn't need to be fixed. He just needed
yeah.
help
Yeah.
of like, this hurts and this is hard. And right. And so I love that there's a space for these kids to saying, okay, yeah, pain is a part of life. Let's learn how to feel it. I want to be confident in trying out for something, like a teen who wants
Mhm.
to try out for a team or an instrument or a band, whatever they play. All of these beautiful things, like I want to go for it. And then having the resilience if they don't get it, what are you going to do with that? Right? Is it
Yeah.
time to give up? Is it time to try again? Different
And what are you going to make
strategy?
it mean about yourself?
Oh, so good.
Right. That's the kicker right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this is so great for teens and adults, it sounds like, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like we could add this into like homeschool of this confidence and the resilience of, okay, yesterday's homeschool was a crap show.
Yeah.
And what do I want to make that mean? Okay.
Yeah. It happens. Right. Moving forward. Because guess what? It happens to public school teachers too.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally does.
Yeah.
Okay, so where do people go to find out more about you, to find out more about your program? Where's
Yeah.
the best places?
Best
Where are the
place
best places?
Best place is joeymascio.com. You can find all the things that I do. I have a podcast that's just for teens. I talk right to them. They're short comedic episodes. It's called Secrets for an Awesome Life. You can find the link to that on joeymascio.com. You can find Sidekick to Hero, that the gamified app on joeymascio.com. And a special gift to just your listeners if they use code MEG, MEG, at checkout, they'll get the first month for free.
Okay, so awesome. What a fun thing to start your homeschool year off with the bang, helping your kid feel more confident, learn resilience. Joey, thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk with me today on my podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great one.